We love being able to go to the different high school, colleges, middle schools to live broadcast sporting events around the area. Georgia Alabama Sports Live appreciates all the fan support, but without a presenting sponsor like Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC and Opelika, none of this would be possible. So we want to say thank you so much. Go to glennsmith.com. That is right, glennsmith.com. See all the inventory and see why people always say, get ready to smile. Thanks, everyone, and thank you to Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC for being our presenting sponsor. What is going on, everyone? Thrift Barringer here with my partner in crime, Richie Rich Holdridge. It's the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. So before, as you see, I'm already dressed and ready. Before I head to Summer League action, by the way, I got incredible news yesterday, Richard, from George Williams, that I initially thought we were going to, do a couple games, 3 games. We were going to get Carver, Russell County, and Shaw. And then to my delight, a team backed out in Shelby, who me and you were talking about this on the phone. We never even heard of that high school. And Calvary Christian's going to step in. So now we got 4 straight games of Calvary, Carver, Russell County, and Shaw. Cannot wait. George Williams, he always does a great job. Legendary coach around here. So before we have those games, and they're coming up right here on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live YouTube channel and Facebook page, we got a show for you, of course, and got a lot in store. We're going to be talking NBA Finals predictions. Me and Richard had a couple days after our hot takes on Monday, who we think is going to win the NBA Finals. We're also going to preview some of the Lions game and what we think is going to happen as they get ready for Peach State and then the championship next week. And we have only one guest today, and we'll have him on in just a moment. It is the head coach for the hottest team. I don't care what sport. They are the biggest news story right now in the Columbus, Georgia, and Tri-City area. Columbus United FC. We got Coach Brett Teach coming on. Richard, I know you're excited about it as a soccer fanatic and former voice of the Columbus Rapids. I can't wait talking to this guy either. 2,000 fans in attendance. This circulated through social media, and I was like, wow. Like my cousin Paxton Bush, he is part of the operations team there. He had been telling us about it. He sends us in our family group chat the live streams of all their games on the road. So I keep up with them and see this type of support in the first home game. That's incredible. I hope it continues. And I'm hoping in the near future, Georgia Alabama Sports Live can be an integral part, just like we are with the Lions and broadcasting their games and doing pregame. We hope we can do the same thing eventually for Columbus United. But we're going to talk with the head coach, Brett Teach. And I can't take it anymore. After Angel Reese came out and said that she deserves credit for everybody watching WNBA games. And I laugh too, Richard. It's not because it's not true, because, yeah, a lot of people did tune in because of how she played in that national championship game 2 years ago. It's the simple fact that the entire WNBA is going after Caitlin Clark because they feel like everybody else out there is giving her too much credit. She's never said, I need the credit. Everybody else has given her credit. So that means everybody's got to take their shot at Caitlin. You have Angel Reese coming out saying she deserves credit over all the other great WNBA Hall of Famers in the past, and nobody's saying anything in the WNBA. Not one player is coming out criticizing her. That is unbelievable, and I cannot wait to talk about that later on. I know you got a lot you want to say about that topic, don't you, Rich?
Oh, yeah. Caitlin Clark has really been driving the sports headlines in the month of June. I've been leading with it on my podcast. She is really the equivalent of Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan. I mean, she's the face of the league. She's changing the WNBA, and I'm excited about it, and I love the pushback. I love the the talking back and forth and really just Angel Reese calling her a villain and that rivalry, it carried over from their college days to the WNBA, and I'm just fascinated by it.
I am too. We'll get into that in a little bit later. As I made mention, we got coming up today Swoosh League, Summer League action. That's what the name George Williams wanted to entitle it. But we got that coming up here all night tonight. Saturday, 5 p.m. pregame for the Columbus Lions. 7 p.m. kickoff. Georgia Alabama Sports Live, Columbus Lions YouTube channel, and the AIF YouTube channel. So make sure to tune in then. And by the way, Rich, next Monday, I got off the phone today with Robert Moore. He's the head coach of the Columbus State Cougars. They got a CSU basketball team camp next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I looked at the schedule just for Monday. There is close to, out of the 14 schools that we covered this year, Richard, 15, I'd willing to bet there's 12 and 13 of them playing in that team camp. So we'll be there next week to promote CSU athletics, the Columbus State men's program, talk to Jay Sparks, Robert Moore, and then, of course, get Glenwood Northside. That's one of the games. Tell me you're not excited about that, Richard. And we're going to
oh, man. Probably you're probably going to get to see Swag play again for Glenwood, Northside. I know Barrington Adams is graduated, but Northside should get some up and coming players. That's always been a great program. Is he a junior?
No, he is a senior.
He is a senior, so he's graduated.
No, but you're missing someone.
I'm missing a player, aren't I?
Do you remember the X-Man who played for Aaron Combs?
Xavier Davy. Oh,
he's going to Northside. And by the way,
I'm excited about that.
TJ Woodson, who I've gotten 4 phone calls, Richard, talking about this young man and the hype surrounding him in his freshman year. He's playing tonight against TJ Benson from Calvary. Calvary also has got some foreign players they got from overseas that are coming and playing and making their debut. Shaw has got some elite talent. Russell County, off of last year's, I would say, very significant and great year under Coach Battle. Cannot wait tonight, Richard. But anything else you want to add, Richard, before we move on?
No, it's just a great showcase of incredible players tonight. Yeah. TJ Benson going up against TJ Woodson. This is really what Georgia Alabama Sports Live is all about. We live streamed those games when TJ Woodson was going up against Xavier Davies in the middle school, and now they get to transition in high school. I mean, this is really what it's all about.
I can't wait, man. I'm telling you. We're also going to get some 7-on-7 football action, maybe even some baseball here in the month of June. So just another busy week and typical for Georgia Alabama Sports Live. So thank you again for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook. And without further ado, let's bring him on. I texted Richard and I said, Rich, this is the hottest story going on right now. We would be buffoons if we don't get the head coach for Columbus United. And you went and texted him and got him immediately. So credit to you. And it is head coach Brett Teach. Brett, coach, thank you so much for joining us.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I love hearing about the local sports and all the up and coming. It's great that you guys have a platform to promote this area because there's a lot of great talent here in every sport. I did spend some time here as in the Montgomery, Alabama region for a while. And this was an unheralded area. So it's nice to see them getting some really good publicity and really celebrate the young men and women of this community. So thanks for
Coach. No doubt, Coach, and we appreciate you coming on. And we talked a little bit about this beforehand, and I do a radio show called Sports Visions Radio on 92.1 Smooth R&B with DJ Jones, and he always says this, and I like to take it with me every time I'm interviewing someone. I want you to tell your story. For many people out there, they hear about Columbus United, hear about this awesome soccer team. We're going to get to all that, I promise you. But let's learn about the guy that's in charge, or one of the guys in charge, which is Brett Teach. So where'd you come from? What got you into coaching? What got you into the soccer game? The floor is yours. Tell us your story, Coach.
Well, it's long because I'm old. So I'll abbreviate, give you the Reader's Digest version. Yeah, I've been involved in soccer as a player and as a coach for 45, 50 years now. I'm 60 years old. I started when I was like 9 or 10. The way I got into it is really actually bizarre. I was a very early developer physically. So I was 5'10" in sixth grade, seventh grade, and always thought I was going to be the original Herschel Walker. Nobody knew about him because I would run over people all in practice and stuff like that. And when I got to seventh grade, um, the max weight was 126 pounds for football, and I was like 134 pounds. And my parents had a very strong distaste for cutting weight at that age, and so I played soccer, loved it, and so I decided, you know what, I'll take the fall off because I'll start high school in eighth grade. And I grew up in Atlanta. My dad was a professor at Georgia Tech. He played football through his career, and so fortunately in Atlanta, there's a lot of places to play, even back in the 80s. So I jumped in, started playing, and really had a lot of success with it. Even though it was kind of it was really just as a backup to give me something to do. And after about a year, I was just hooked on it, started playing club soccer as well as football and basketball for my high school. And I went to Dunwoody High School. And, and I had some great coaches there, football side specifically. We had coaches who would later go on to coach at really high levels. David Kelly was a coach with us, and he ended up winning a state title there. And you would have never thought it with my teams. But as I kind of didn't grow anymore and wasn't able to progress kind of in the football world to the extent I thought I would, I had a lot of success on the soccer side, and did really well with my club team, did really well in what they call Olympic development. And all of a sudden, I'm getting letters from South Carolina, UCLA, schools like that. And for football, I'm getting, schools like, Case Western Reserve and Appalachian State, which at the time was still an NAI school. And I didn't even recognize the schools. So going through the recruiting process for soccer, I ended up picking University of South Carolina. Well, it turned out they signed the number one goalkeeper in the country right after I committed to him. And so I got out of that letter, my number two choice. And it wasn't as easy as it is today. Today, you just decide you don't want to go somewhere, they just let you out and you go. Back then, it was a 2-year penalty. And so I would have sat for 2 years, but my number two was Vanderbilt. And so their coach advised me to go to one of three schools, King College up in Bristol, Tennessee, University of South, or Rhodes, because Vanderbilt took all of their credits. And so I went to King with every intention of leaving after a year, and just loved the small college environment. So played there, had a great career there. We turned the program into one of the top 5 in the country, and I was a part of that. And actually, my coach was from Phoenix City, Alabama, of all places.
Wow.
Andy Farrer. Yeah, he played basketball at Columbus State.
Yep.
And then eventually moved over to Auburn and played his junior and senior at Auburn. It was a really big influence. My life still is. He's like a second father to me. So when I got done with my career, there wasn't really a pro option. The old pro league that we had in the 80s, the NASL, had folded. And so your really only option was to go be a traveling gypsy show, and you would play for a team, and they would have an indoor season, an outdoor season. You'd make $50 a week or something like that. And you'd have to have a real job. And I just, at that point, knew very quickly. I was in the middle of Little Rock, Arkansas in July, and our door fell off our van. And I realized, it's time to quit playing at this and go to life. And I always knew from the time I was really young, I was going to be in athletics. Nothing ever else crossed my mind to do with my life. And I all of a sudden got a bunch of offers to coach. It started out mainly just grad assistantships, things like that. Well, then I got a really strange offer, but out of Erskine College, which is now a Division II. At the time was an NAI women's program. And women's soccer was very new, but Erskine was a unique program in that they were very good. And so I took over my very first season. We went to a national title game.
Wow.
Yeah. I said, man, this is easy. It really wasn't that easy.
Right.
So I was at Erskine pre-Title IX enforcement. Title IX had been decided, but that wasn't being enforced. So we really didn't get much help. And so, again, being from Atlanta, I get an offer from LaGrange College after 1 year or 2 years. So I went to LaGrange for 1 year, 1989, and we had a really good season. I think for a long time it was the only winning season they'd ever had. And our vision didn't align with what they wanted the program to be. I wanted to be a national power. They just wanted athletics to be an enhancement of student life. And so, I actually had a meeting with my AD and the president, and they kind of said, look, you're welcome to stay here as long as you want, but we're not going to be the platform to make you happy. And so I went back to Atlanta and coached at Oglethorpe. And I was there for several years. And that's where the Columbus story begins. My goalkeeper at Oglethorpe in 1991 was a young man named J.D. Hester, who now owns the Columbus United.
Wow.
One of our owners. And during that process, I also recruited a young man named Michael Hitchcock, who is the other owner of the program. And he runs 16 teams in our league. And so, I got to know those guys really well. And then my career started going. I moved from Oglethorpe to Georgia State. My big goal was to be a head Division I coach by the time I was 30. I got the Georgia State job at 29. I was there for 7 years, and my wife and I were struggling to have children. We went through a lot of tough times. We had some, just tough times trying to have children, and we just decided we need a change in life. So Auburn Montgomery offered me their head soccer job. I went there, and we had 7 amazing years there, adopted our 2 children. I think our record was 139-21. We played for 4 national titles. We were just in every way, we were connected in the community. And why this is important is I saw what a program can do in a community there. Every coach in the community either played for me or worked with me. We were very involved in the youth setup in the city. And it was just like, I always call it Camelot. It was like, it was like Camelot at the time. Even like our opening game with United was a practice scrimmage. We went up to Montgomery and played. Right. And, I've been gone from Montgomery since 2007, and I still got treated like a king there. I mean, people came out, great crowd, friends came to see me. It just was a really wonderful time in my life. But, we did then move to Tusculum College, which is a Division II school up in Northeast Tennessee. My wife's from that region. And so we wanted to be close to her parents so they could get to know our children. And then the itch to get back in Division I just kept hitting me. And so I was offered a top assistant job with my best friend at Virginia Commonwealth University. So I spent 14 years there. And during that time period, we recruited and signed Michael Hitchcock, one of our owners' sons, William Hitchcock. So it's kind of a full circle. I recruited Michael in 1991, and we signed his son in 2020 during COVID. And so, Michael has spent his life in soccer. He ran a bunch of different MLS clubs. And then finally, when he was the general manager of FC Dallas. And, like everything, those have shelf lives. So he moved into kind of a private thing where he has invested in, I think, 14, 15 NPSL teams around the country. And all of them are run really, really well. And he always wanted to bring one here because he considers Columbus home. And so we were just talking one day right before they did the launch. He said, here, take a look at this. He sent it to me. And the whole ownership group were guys who played for me, guys that I had in the Olympic development program way back in the early 90s. They're like 4 or 5 guys, Jeff Hunt, Chris Cairns, JD. I knew all these guys really well. And I just jokingly wrote back, well, he just hadn't, I should be the coach, and we just put the whole band back together. And we were joking. Well, our season continues at VCU. We clinch we win our regular season. We go to our conference tournament. So it's about 3 days before we're playing in our final for their conference. And Mike calls me and says, hey, you got a second? And yeah, I said, sure. He said, would you really be interested? Because he said, if you really are, then we'd love to have you. Because I spent a lot of time in Columbus back in the 90s. In fact, the old Hardaway coach who now comes to all our practices every day, he told me, you taught me my first coaching school back in like 1992. And so I had a real affinity and connection in this area. I was actually, and I'm not trying to talk out of turn, but I was actually offered the Columbus State women's job prior to Jay. Herb Green, the old AD, came all the way over to AUM. And he wined and dined me, had my wife convinced, and we just had such a good thing at AUM. It was hard, but I almost came to Columbus at that point. I mean, we were very close to coming. In fact, I did accept the job, but the mistake, and Herb even said it, the mistake I made was letting you coach the fall, because I coached the fall. We went to the national title game, I couldn't leave the group. And that's what he said. But, so again, I've always been really excited about this community. JD was a great goalkeeper for me. Unfortunately, he hurt his shoulder, so he wasn't able to continue his career. So when this opportunity came, it also coincides with the fact that my parents are 85 and 86 years old, and they still live in Dunwoody. So I spend every weekend with them. So I'm able to helping two people mean a lot to me, JD and Michael, coaching a bunch of players that are friends of mine's players. Like the way I recruited players, I just called all my friends. I didn't go out. I never advertised. I didn't do anything other places do. I simply just called my coaches, my friends in this business, and I said, look, here's what I want. I want kids who will be great for a community. It's an initial team. They need to be able to play. Want to play a certain style. You recommend them, I'll take them. And we had the best bunch of kids, talented, very talented. And I wanted kids who saw an opportunity to get into that pro wheel, but also understood the significance of being the first. Coming to a community that's had minor league sports come and not succeed, but knowing that we have a great model. I mean, this has been successful everywhere Michael's put it in. And so personal, professional development, it's also something I haven't done. I've done about everything in my career. I've worked with national teams. I was with a couple national teams for the U.S. as a coach. I've been, not as a head coach, but as an assistant. I've gotten to travel with World Cup teams when they were here in the U.S. back in the 90s. I've gotten to do a lot, but I've never actually worked with NPSL or USL2 team. Well, it was really interesting. I was also offered a USL2 team, which is kind of the rival league in Charlottesville, Virginia. I still live in Richmond. And all this went on while I took another job, and I moved to Mount St. Mary's University, another Division I job, where I'm now the head coach there. So, it just seemed like, man, this was kind of meant to be. I mean, JD and Michael, I know what Michael's vision is because we talked about it for 4 or 5 years, not about Columbus specifically, but how he builds clubs. And then JD, I mean, he rolls his sleeves up and gets to work. I mean, he's a guy, and I don't know if you guys have had the pleasure to meet him yet, but he's connected in the community really well, grew up here, loves this place. And he really, what I've been really impressed with him is he's one of those leaders that leads from the front. He leads by doing. The reason we had over 2,000 people is because of the work that JD puts into it. Now, Michael has the PR machine. I'm sure you've seen that, where he understands how to get information out. But JD is part of that, but he also is connected in the community, loves this community. He's never left this community except for college. That's the only time he ever left, when he came to Oglethorpe. And so the passion and energy he puts into it, and then guys like Paxton who've come in, your cousin, and they've given it all to him. And JD travels with us sometimes. He's involved, and he comes out and talks to the guys. We had a player right as we got here, the very first practice, we had a young man who collapsed on the field. Fortunately, everything was okay, but we did go through the whole process of, having to take him to the hospital and then get follow-up cardiac care. And JD walked us through every step because he's on the boards of all these different hospitals here. And so we met a cardiologist who helped us out. I'm sure he's now a sponsor for our club. And so, again, there's something about being connected to a community. And really, like, they keep asking me, hey, do you mind if coaches come out and watch training? I said, look, it's just not my program. This is Columbus's program. And that's how I view it. And so I just happen to be the steward of it right now. And I'm just helping it get off to a good start, both from a competitive standpoint, but also because I really clearly understand what Hitch and JD are after, because they're looking at this as the next 10 years, not the next 10 weeks,
Right.
And they want this to be around long term. And so we were fortunate to get involved at Connect Stadium. Hopefully going forward, there's some other news that'll come out about where we might play and all that. So, yeah, it just was a perfect. I know I told you it was going to be short. I lied. But, that's kind of how we got here. And it is a very circular story. But it, like I said, it just feels like it was meant to be me down here.
Coach, clearly the fan base came out this past weekend, over 2,000 fans, and this is something that just doesn't happen overnight. I mean, there is a fan base here in Columbus this is a soccer town, and we've got great club teams like Concord Fire South and the CYSC. MLS player Miles Leonard, who went to Shaw, played for the New England Revolution, is from Columbus. I mean, we've had indoor soccer here in the Fountain City. I mean, we have the UPSL team, Fountain City FC. But just tell us a little bit about the NPSL, what type of tier league this is, and talk a little bit about some of your key players and what their experience is.
What's really interesting is Marshall Leonard was on the national team I coached. So I've known Marshall since he was 16 years old as well. He played for Atlanta Lightning later in his career. And then, of course, he played for my assistant coach, Bruce Wade, at Shaw. So Bruce is in Atlanta now at Walton High School, and he's also one of the owners. And so when he wanted to be part of this, because I've known Bruce for 25 years, I was like, yeah, come on, we'd love to have you. And he's been a massive help. I've been very fortunate to have him by my side. But Marshall sent us a nice little send-off to get us going, and talked about come play for my high school coach. He meant so much to me. And Marshall, now, if you don't know, is an ER doctor in New York, was really prominent during COVID. He was interviewed all the time by CNN because he's a very prominent ER doctor, and he was their go-to guy in New York. So the NPSL is a really interesting league because you can have professionals in it. So like our very first game was a team out of Naples, and they're essentially a professional team. Their average starting was about 28 years old. They have 34-year-old. They get a stipend to play, and they get housing, and they're treated like pros. And the reason they have all the players they have is because their plan is to go next year to the USL, which is a different league, but to be a part of the USL Championship, which is the top tier of minor league soccer in the U.S. The NPSL is a league that basically, is really for those who want to just get in the wheel. They're guys who maybe didn't get a contract this year, and so they have an opportunity to play. The cost to bring a team in isn't exorbitant like some of the other leagues. We are considered Division 4. So basically you have MLS, which is Division 1. Then you have USL Championship, which is Division 2. Then there's like 3, professional leagues below that. There's one called NISA, which is, kind of the newest and least developed. Then you have USL League 1, which is full-time professional players. And then you have, of course, all the indoor kind of pro teams that are in and around. And then below that, you have USL 2, and you have us and the NPSL. And so a number of players that play in the NPSL will turn up next year on pro rosters. Guys that I have here, this is their first chance to be treated like a professional all summer. You come in, you're housed most of the time. If you're not, you're traveling in for training each day. We have 3 of the local kids from Columbus High playing for us, or 2 of them from Columbus High who just won the state title. They're in a position where they're more learning right now. They're not getting into our roster each week. But in our league is really difficult. You have established, like in our half, you have New Orleans has been around for 25 years. You have Pensacola has been around for at least 10. And then you have Tallahassee has been around longer than that. And so they're all have guys who are 25, 28, 32. I mean, there's a 40-year-old at Tallahassee who played for the U.S. John Bornstein. He started for the U.S. in 2010 World Cup. So he's actually played in 2 World Cups for the U.S. And he's old, but he can play. And, in New Orleans, they have a couple of former pros. Well, we're all college kids. Every player in our organization played either in college this past fall and has eligibility remaining. I think we have 1 player on the entire roster who's exhausted his eligibility. And all the rest are college kids or high school, seniors going to college. And it was kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to build with younger guys to give them that experience to bridge the gap between, what they get in college. Because this is different in college. It's not like it's different for a lot of our kids, because a lot of our kids come from smaller colleges, international kids from smaller colleges where, a lot of times their teams are so good. They're 8 or 10-0 before the season ever starts. And their season is going to come down to how they do in their 4 or 5 big games. Well, we won't have an easy game all year this summer. So they're now having to learn how to play every minute of every game to be successful. And that's really the separation of who could make it as a pro and who can't, is can you do your job repetitively in any kind of game model and be successful? And can you carry yourself like a pro every single day? So the NPSL is kind of that, I always call it a bridge. It's a bridge from amateur soccer. Well, college may not be amateur much longer, but you know how that works. Soccer will probably still stay that way. But there's a bridge between, you know, where you're protected in that college environment to the next stage where they can cut you at any day. Because our guys have to make a roster each week. We have 29 active players on our roster. We can only dress 18. And so there is competition every single day in training. And that's not something that when you're the best player in your college, you don't face that. Even in really good programs, once you've established yourself, you're kind of there. And we have 3 kids who came with me who were on my VCU teams that are here with us now. And they were all starters, but 2 of them have started games on the bench. And they're great players. I mean, VCU is a top 25 Division I program. So we're very, very good. But we have kids from University of Rio Grande. We have kids from Georgia Southwestern. Kid from Georgia Southwestern has played every minute for us. So, you know, that's what's, I think, so exciting about the opportunity for the players. And I think, you know, they get to really take a look at what it'd be like to live this life.
I think that is an excellent answer. And gosh, I'm sorry, Coach. There's so many avenues I want to go right now, just because for one, I did my research, but just blown away from your resume, playing Division I soccer, getting recruited at Division I level. That is, I think, an incredible feat, and that's something you can take to your grave. For someone that holds his hat on playing D2 basketball, I couldn't imagine, you know, getting recruiting letters from UCLA, Vanderbilt, like you may mention. I would have been pinching myself if I had those opportunities. But I do want to talk about, in your experience, in your coaching over the last 30 years, how has the athlete been? I like asking coaches that have had longevity and obviously been able to adapt, because I figured you've had to do that to be successful like you have, because the game obviously changed from now to 30 years ago when you started coaching. How has that process been in adapting to that over your long and successful career?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, by the way, because it is. I think the game itself has sped up. It's not better, it's not worse, but it's a lot faster. And so we have a lot more. You know, I haven't spent the last 14 years in a what I would call it. We're not a mid-major in soccer at VCU. We're a top 40 team every single year.
Right.
While I was there, and they'll continue to be now that I'm gone. But the point is, we had full-time dietitian, full-time strength coach with men's soccer for strength, academic coaches. They had all the bells and whistles that you would expect for that kind of program. So athletically, our players get closer to the peak of their ability. The coaching level at the elite level is really good. And that has now, I don't want to say trickled down, but that has carried on throughout the entirety of the college soccer landscape. We never, in the last 20 years, I haven't coached against a single team that I was said, man, that team was unprepared. Now maybe they didn't have a great game, whatever, but there was a plan. They could have won. It just didn't work if they didn't win. And that's really, from a professional standpoint, that's where it's changed. I mean, other programs I've been in, when I was at AUM, we never lost a conference game 7 years. Our girls didn't give up a goal for 4 years in the league. Now, we didn't give up a goal. Well, those days are over. And it's because our athletes are better, because they're trained better, they understand nutrition better, they're treated better, they understand. And an area that I think when I started that was totally ignored was mental health. We didn't, and I don't mean that like people are having issues, just, understanding that it's I hate to borrow phrases from other coaches, but, Nick Saban says it really well, it's a process. And you have to be process oriented. You have to live moment to moment in games, you have to look at it like the old video where you had all the film strip and you had all this. Every moment in a game is just a simple cell. And you have to go from one to the other. And your job as an athlete now is to win as many of those cells as you can. Because the more you win, the more your teammates win, then I think the better chance you have to be successful that day. And I think we've done a really good job redefining success. It used to be, it was all about the team. So when I started coaching, it was team, either you fit in or you're out. You know, it was all about, oh, the team. And probably about in the mid 90s, that started to shift into more of a relationship, you know, where it became, I wouldn't say player centric, it was still team centric, but you began to get to understand your student athletes a little better. You understood that, you know, hey, they're not just a forward or a defender or a quarterback or a point guard. There was more to them than that. And you had to begin to treat the entire person. And I was fortunate enough to be at Georgia State when Lefty Driesell was there, and Lefty was a legend. He said to me one time, I'll never forget this: when you invest in a person, you win no matter what. When you invest in you know, wins minus losses, you'll never be satisfied. You'll never be fulfilled is actually the word he used. And it was really, you know, because again, he had gone through some tough times at Maryland at the end when Lenny Bias passed away and had to go through that whole thing. But he was so spot on with that assessment. And then as we got into the 2000s, it really became a little bit more about how do you make the individual grow to then fit into your team, you know. And it wasn't so much about, you know, oh, I got this team, you got to fit in. Well, you do, but it's now a real partnership. And as we got into COVID, and I think, you know, COVID wasn't good for a lot. You know, it was a terrible time. Everybody went through so much. But I think if you can take a positive out of really negative time, I think everybody began understanding the importance of mental fitness and the treatment of guys and girls and even professional athletes, and understanding that, you know, look, we all go through really hard times and we all use different coping mechanisms. And so it really is about now coaching and helping the person. And then through that, they're able to then successfully navigate the physical, tactical, technical demands of the game. And if you don't create that relationship with the player where they trust you, because I'm old school when it comes to demands. You know, I expect what I expect. They'll say, well, at this place, I don't care. You know, the only difference between a top level college team and a pro is we got to wait 6 months to get rid of you. And that's really what it is. You know, we have to wait. And so it's really been refreshing for me because, you know, even though, you know, I'm 60 years old and I've been doing this for 37 years, you know, I feel like I'm learning and growing every day as a coach. And I feel like that the important thing is when you invest in people, I mean, it's amazing. You know, I have players who played for me and they're in their late 40s, early 50s now who are coming to our games. You know, we have players, like I have a player who's meeting me in Pensacola on Friday night who played for me in 90, 91, 92. I have other players, and this has gone on for years, where players just call you out of the blue and they show up. And you begin to realize you say stuff that, you know, I was 24 years old when I worked with some of these guys. I was just some, I didn't know what I was doing. Paxton's age.
Right.
Things I said to those guys back then still resonate with them today. And it makes sense because my coaches have the same effect on me. I still talk to my college coach 4 times a week. And so I just think that's how things have changed. I think the game has improved because our understanding of how to help players physically and mentally has really, really grown. And I think if you don't understand that, you need to get out of it.
Coach, you talk about that game that the next road game is June the 7th against Pensacola FC. Just talk about what the ultimate goal is for the team, how to get just the community involved, and really how they can get tickets and go to the game. And also one thing, how can they get merch too? Because I think that you got a cool logo. I think that would be great just to just wear the merch out in the community to support this just incredible franchise that's just getting off the ground running.
Yeah, I'll start with Pensacola. They're a really good team. What's nice is you go there because almost all of us play in high school stadiums, so the fields are tremendously narrow. like generally soccer's played on a field 120 by 75. Well, you already lose a little bit of length in most of the high school stadiums are playing in because of the goalposts for football. So you're going to lose. You're going to play at 116, which is fine. But what you really lose is the width. Like our field is 63 yards wide, and all these other fields are small. Well, Pensacola has the place that they play hosts the SEC Women's Final Four in soccer, and so the field's 120 by 75. It's massive, and we haven't played. We had to go cross field today just to mimic the width of it. So our challenges are not only a really good team we're getting ready to play, but also the challenge of playing on, honestly, it's one of the best fields in America, but just the extra width, because you don't think about it, but imagine all of a sudden the NFL, instead of playing a 53-yard wide field, you're playing a 75-yard wide field. That's what's happening. All of a sudden you ever seen like Canadian football where the fields are so big and you just throw it? Well, that's akin to what we're going to go through on Friday night. It's just going to be a bigger field, better for the way we play. But, again, it will be something we haven't had to defend that much space either. So this week's all about helping us understand that's really not different. It's just more shifting. It's, soccer and basketball are so related when it comes to the tactics of it, if you will. It's, soccer's just doubled and played in much larger space than basketball because you have the one guy sits in the goal, the goalkeeper, but then it's 10. So Pensacola will create enough challenges. They're the most athletic team we've seen yet. They have really good players. They've got some older guys as well. They've got some college guys. So it's a good blend of older and younger guys. In terms of tickets, everything's on our website, columbusunitedfc.com. There's a link to a store. It's great. I have so many shirts now, and I've sent out so many, and I'm buying these. I'm not like, they'll give me what I want free, but I'm supporting it as well because it is an amazing opportunity, I think, to put something here that, especially with the Braves now bringing I'm a huge Braves fans, guys. So,
Woo!
Yeah, I love it. I sat right behind third base dugout the other night. Took my brother to a game, and we sat 2 rows. Unfortunately, the Padres blew us out that night, but
yeah,
the night before Bryce Elder got sent back, he did not. He pitched doubles, I said. But, it was, I just, and I sported my stuff there. I think there's a really good opportunity to make this something that is part of this community for years to come. And I think that, it's so good to see. Like when I go to the grocery store, do you go to the game the other night? And I've been to like the Publix and we have an Aldi over here by where our apartments are. And it is cool. And so everywhere I go, I wear it. I wear the t-shirt or a polo or whatever. Not just the training. I actually don't wear it to training so I can wear it when I go other places because quite frankly, I want to tell the story. And I think that anybody that wants it, like I said, go to our website, and anything you want is there, from visors to. I know we have a big promotion coming up for the game on I think it's the 12th, maybe. It's going to be Ted Lasso night. So we're going to do on Monday of that week. It's a Wednesday game. So on Monday we're going to have an open practice. We're going to do a chalk talk before the game with local coaches, and they're always open anyway. So if any coach ever wants to come out, I'm love to have them, love to talk to them, but this is the nice, there's not a lot of good about getting old. Your knees start getting bad, your shoulders fall apart. We always have to put your foot in the ground very slowly in the morning, see what's going to hurt that day. But the thing that is really good is you understand that we're all in this together, and if somebody takes their hard-earned time to come out here to spend with us, then we're going to spoil them. And whether it's access to me, the players, the autograph alley the other night was amazing at the game. We had 300-400 kids out there. Our guys signed for 30-40 minutes. I probably signed 50, and nobody wants mine, but they did it anyway just because they were being nice. And I think it's just a really, what minor league baseball can do. This has the same kind of effect. It can be a neat environment where, one of Hitch's other organizations, Annapolis Blues, they had 11,200 people at their game for the same night that we opened here. And that program's only 2 years old.
Wow.
And it's just captured that community. And again, like you said, it's a huge soccer community here. Again, I know it well. There was for years, you also had a guy named Tony Frankovich who ran the local clubs as well. Tony and I have been friends since 93 probably. Concord South, but Concord's obviously one of the major clubs in Atlanta. Two guys that run Concord in Atlanta both worked with me at a different club in Atlanta when I was in Atlanta. So I'm close to that crew, and they were excited about what's developed down here. And, you look at some of the high school players. I can't talk about them because it's a recruiting violation by name, but, the guys who just won a state title and what they're doing, like one of them is he'll be playing in nationals at the highest level this summer for his team. And, we have, you have guys going Division I out of this community. You have guys, one of our players is going to Bellarmine University, which is a very good Division I program. And so it's happening right now. And I think that I don't think people expected us to be what they saw the other night.
No.
The people who came out, because it was obviously we played very well. We beat the best team in our league by everybody's predictions. And we deserved to win. It wasn't a lucky thing. Now we can turn around, blame tomorrow, and lose 2-0 because our league is like that. If you're not on your game that night, you'll get beat. So what I can guarantee is if you come to a game, we'll work very hard the whole game. You'll see kids playing. There'll be an unbelievable blend of cultures in our team. We'll have kids from all over the world, but then we also have kids from Columbus. We have kids from the area. One of our top players, a guy named Damian Dominguez, plays at Georgia Southwestern. He's been outstanding. Like I said, we have the 3 kids from VCU who've done well, and I could go on because we've had different contributions from players. Our leading scorer is an NAI player from University of Rio Grande. He scored the first goal in Columbus history, and then he scored the first home goal in Columbus history. His name's Rafa Kawada. I said, Rafa, you just want to score all the goals, right? And then, one of our players was the freshman of the year in the Atlantic Sun Conference from Stetson University, Javi Zada. And so we're very fortunate to get these guys. I'm fortunate to have the relationship I do with their coaches so that we can get players like that. And, and I just think it's a group that if I could sum it up, if I'm a fan, what I want to see is I want to see people who are grateful for the opportunity to play. And our kids, every one of them, is thankful. They're grateful. Like every now and then I do what I call family dinners with them, and I haven't been able to do a ton. We've done a couple where I just say, hey, I'm going to be at this restaurant at this time. If anybody wants to see, come on. And we'll have 18 guys here who live in apartments. They all show up. They're taking a free meal anytime they can get it. And we call them family dinners. And they just, you hear them talk about how much they enjoy being a part of the community here. And because Columbus is an amazing place. It's a big enough city. It's a city, but it's still small enough that it's a town. You don't have the 285. You have enough where, like most small communities, if you are good and if you treat people well, people will support you. And of course, you can't ask for anything better than Houston Sports Clinic, being our title sponsor. And that's not a plug. I grew up with Houston they were my orthopedist in Atlanta for Georgia State back in the 90s. So, I've known the organization for years. So I think we're all just grateful that we have the opportunity, and we want to do the best we can to help the community latch on to us and make us something here for several years, long after I'm done coaching. And I've been really impressed with the local high school coaches. We had 3 of them out to practice today, and we know them. We're with them all the time. A couple of helped us out in tryouts. Like I said, we have a retired coach who comes every practice. He said, Coach, I really appreciate you letting me come out here. I said, Coach, you're not only welcome to be here, I invite you to be here. I invite you to, if you want to talk to me about what you see, look, you coached for 30 years. We're going to take, again, I'll make the decision, but I'm not concerned that somebody else has an opinion. I want it to be I really do believe it's Columbus's team. I'm just the person who's captain the ship right now. And I think JD, Hester, and Hitch see it the same way. And so I think in the end, when you have people that are appreciative, grateful for the opportunity, and excited about being here, and I think it leads to really good stuff. And of course, we have a really good model through the way that we promoted and things like that. So I'm just fortunate and happy to be a part of it.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. I I do want to ask one more question. It's not about Columbus United. The game's coming up June the 12th against Pensacola, one of the top teams in the league. You can get season tickets, $120. Are you kidding me? $120 to see 5 or 6 elite level games, as you made mention, 2,000 people. I'm all about vibes. In this town, Brett, we've had many minor league teams come and leave, and we're not successful. I think what I saw from this past weekend, yes, it's only one game and maybe a hot take, but I think that marketing and what y'all did, that is what you have to do, like you said, to get the trust from the fans, because they've seen a lot of teams come through here and then not pan out. Once you get the trust and they realize, dang, this is actually a pretty good product, they're going to be willing to invest. My last question, though, is talking about soccer in the United States in general. Because, you know, as a casual fan, and there's a lot of us out there, Brett, we only watch when it comes to the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And when we watch the World Cup, United States is never one of the top countries. Do you think that the United States now, you're in the soccer world, do you think they're on par to eventually have elite level talent to compete with the other top countries in the world? Or are we still far behind everyone else?
I think what we are now. You know, I was fortunate enough to be a part of the '94 World Cup process in the U.S. Very minor level. I just happened to get lucky. But, you know, when the World Cup came here in '94, it was kind of that initial really big boost soccer needed. And so what's happened over the years, we've had many different national coaches. We've had a lot of players who've been successful internationally. We have more players successful internationally now than we ever have. We have players who are impactful with different major clubs around the world right now. You know, I guess it's all on how you look at it. I think FIFA has something like 480 member countries. I think we're ranked 19th. So, you know, or 18th. I know we've been as high as 11th or 10th.
Right.
So, you know, it's a different mindset than maybe, you know, when you talk about, oh, they won a national title in basketball in Division I. That's great. And it's with 350 teams, but it's one country, you know, and it's the only country in the world that does it like we do. You know, we are still, you know, the MLS average salary, I believe now is $185,000 a year, but I have foreign players now making $600,000, $700,000. But, you know, I have a former player who makes $12 million a year as the coach of the LA Rams. All right. Yeah, Sean McVay played for me many, many years ago, not to name drop him. And
Wow.
Sean played for me in Atlanta. And he's an Atlanta kid, grew up there, you know,
Right.
that kind of stuff. So anyway, you know, I have also a former player, Ricardo Clark, who played in 2 World Cups for the U.S. And now he's an assistant coach in the league. And he won't make his entire career. And he was a 10-year MLS pro, but yes, but we're starting to bridge that gap financially. And I think as you bridge the gap financially, where a kid sees, wow, I can be a millionaire doing this, and they're an elite talent, maybe athletically, you know, I think it picks up a bit of traction. So I do think we're trending properly. Do I think we'll win the World Cup the next time? No, I don't think we're ready for that, but I could see us going like in 2002 when we went to the Elite Eight, to the Final Eight. The problem is, you know, to win a World Cup, it takes so many things to go right. And I still think our player pool is a little too small to be able to manage 6 games over 3 weeks against the very best teams in the world, who like have 26 players at a certain level. We may have 8, 9. So a key injury for us could sink us. What's funny is we're a little bit behind in goal. I mean, for years, we were amongst the best in goal. But that's probably, I would say right now, the position that causes me the most concern is we don't have an elite goalkeeper. And we, you know, for years, you know, you had, you know, Tony Meola, Casey Keller, Brad
Howard.
Yeah. And, you know, you had over and over and over these guys who would go other places, and, you know, Tim Howard's awesome. You know, you go through these guys, and from 1990 until Howard retired in 2018, 2019, we had elite level keepers that could play anywhere. And right now that's not the case. And it's just, for whatever reason, we're in a little bit of down period at goal. So If we had an elite keeper, I could see us making a run because we do have guys who can score goals in big games, and that's where we're different. Christian Pulisic, some of those guys. So I do think, and it's also, look, it's, I know people love to say, well, soccer is the most popular sport amongst youth. It is, but we're counting men or boys and girls. If you coach boys, we're still ahead of football and baseball. We're a little bit behind basketball in numbers, but I think that the opportunity now, not only to play in college, but to play pro. You have Atlanta United that's doing a wonderful job with their youth programs up there. So every kind of area has now role models, and that with MLS expanding so much. And I think that's really the key. We need our pro teams to lead us. And this is where soccer, I think, is different. I would liken us to when the NBA and the ABA merged. And if you remember, about that time, we were not winning the Olympics anymore.
No.
And it took us to go get the best players in the world and put them together to win the Olympics again. And I think soccer's probably at that stage without the best players just sitting out to the sidelines where we can win it. We can win and we can beat anybody in a day. I don't know that we have enough yet to sustain a full path to a World Cup final. But, I truly believe in my lifetime that we'll be in a semifinal, which I look at everything like, if you can be in a semifinal, you can win it. Like in college soccer, I call it first weekend, second weekend, third weekend team. If you're a third weekend team, you can win it. That means you're one of the top 8 teams. Now, you may not, but you can. But soccer's a crazy game. You can sometimes be second best on a night and win. So it's a different animal, but no, that's kind of where I see it right now.
His name is Coach Brett Teach. He has 30 years of experience at the Division I level, winning national titles. He has just been an incredible guest. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I hope you come on many more times. And, Coach, I don't know if Richard told you this, but we would thoroughly like to be involved with Columbus United. If you will let us, just to help to get the word out and help out with, live streaming, whatever it may be. Because I really, after talking with you now and seeing what happened the past week, and you talked highly of these owners, I think this is something that could be sustainable in the near future. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I did get Richard. Hopefully we got all connected, and I know there's interest on our end. I spoke to both JD and Mike today a little bit about things, and so no, we're excited about the community. I love what you guys are doing. After Richard wrote me yesterday, I started going back and watching some of your older shows, and it was really cool to see. You can always, my dad always says, he said, you can't always tell when somebody is telling you the truth, but when you hear the truth, you know it, and you can tell how much this means to you guys. Not just soccer, the sports scene in this community. I think it's a great platform for all of us, and so I appreciate you guys having time to have us on, and also to let us tell our story. So I really appreciate that.
No doubt, Coach. We look forward to talking to you real soon, and have a great night, man.
Thanks. You too, guys.
Thanks, Coach Brett Teach. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, got more here on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. Be back after this. You're watching right now the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show that is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Get ready to smile. We'll be right back after this.
Make your way to Glenn Smith Chevrolet. Choose America's #1 compact SUV, the Chevy Equinox. Discounted up to $6,500 off. Chevy's full-size pickup truck, the powerful Chevy Silverado, is up to $12,000 off. And big Chevy Silverado 2500 HDs are discounted up to $6,000 off. Plus, enjoy no payments until fall. Make your way to Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika.
Get ready to smile.
We love being able to go to the different high school, colleges, middle schools to live broadcast sporting events around the area. Georgia Alabama Sports Live appreciates all the fan support, but without a presenting sponsor like Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC in Opelika, none of this would be possible. So we want to say thank you so much. Go to glennsmith.com. That is right, glennsmith.com. See all the inventory and see why people always say, get ready to smile. Thanks, everyone, and thank you to Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC for being our presenting sponsor. Welcome back, everyone. Man, what an incredible interview with Brett Teach. It went a lot longer than I thought because I don't like keeping guys that are busy like him. But, man, he told his story, and we wanted that. And then I thought he did a great job promoting Columbus United soccer. They're sixth place right now. They've only played 4 games. Still got, I think they played 10 to 12 games total. But I think success this year is just getting notoriety and getting support from the community. Championships will follow, as he made mention, and then getting guys developed. That's the biggest thing. When you got someone like him that obviously winning is in his pedigree, I mean, go look at his resume that just blew me away. The guy's done a phenomenal job, and we look forward to being a part of Columbus United soccer.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to possibly live streaming some games for Columbus United, and being the announcer for the Columbus Rapids. I mean, indoor soccer, let's just say it as it is. It did fail in this city. But it was a success in that first year. But I think that this is going to be done right because you do have a backing from the community. And as far as the logistics, compared to indoor soccer and outdoor soccer, it's a lot cheaper to get an outdoor soccer team out on the field because with the indoor game, I mean, you have the logistics of the Columbus Civic Center, and then you got to sell the tickets, and it's that fan base trying to get interested in indoor soccer. Everybody is familiar with outdoor soccer, and so I think that's why this is going to be a big success. I mean, I'm sad to see the Rapids go, but I'm very excited about Columbus United FC, and I know that they're in a good league, and I think that this is going to be something that's going to be here to stay.
Well, we would definitely want to live stream on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Richard, I would never step on your toes because I know you love soccer, and it's the one sport that I wouldn't mind learning, but I need to be in the booth and watch you in action. You did a great job with the GIAA, and hey, man, we're partners. Georgia Alabama Sports Live is both of ours, so I know you're going to look forward to being in on it. I don't know if you're going to be able to do that first one if we do next Wednesday, but I will make sure that Georgia Alabama Sports Live is there. I don't know if we can get you a special release, Richard. Just get you
I
in
might
town
be there.
They
got a next game on the 15th on Father's Day weekend. I want to say against the New Orleans Gestures. But I was actually looking at the schedule. There's a couple of games that I can make.
Yeah, there is, and but the next one is coming up June 12th. So we're gonna try to go all out, and we're gonna make things happen. Let's talk NBA Finals, and then we're gonna wrap it up with some Caitlin Clark talk. All right, after doing my due diligence, couple things. Number one, I honestly think if the role players can play at the level they're playing, which is asking a lot for Dallas, I just don't see Tatum and Brown matching and keeping up with what Kyrie and Luka have done in this playoffs. Now, Kyrie could be shut down. Remember, he only had 16 points a game versus Oklahoma City Thunder. And if there's a team that has athletes to throw like the Thunder did with Kyrie and that game plan, it's the Boston Celtics. I'm going to go Dallas in 6. If it goes 7, I find it hard to believe that Boston will lose at home. But then again, usually the stars shine brightest in game 7. So that would be a game Luka would put up 75 and try to win. I'm going Dallas in 6. That's where I'm going. I can't stand Boston. I know we talked to Hoppy. I don't want the Celtics to win. They're not appeasing to the eye to watch. I like watching Luka and Kyrie playmakers. Like, even Derek White, as good as he is, and Drew Holiday's great, and, Tatum's been much improved in his playmaking ability, Richard. They're not Luka and Kyrie when it comes to the pleasure I have in watching those guys go to work each and every time they suit up. I'm going Dallas in 6, but I would not be surprised if Boston wins in 5. If that makes sense. I got Dallas winning in 6, but if it's a series that could be a blowout where it's not even close, I'm leaning on Boston. I don't think Dallas has that capability. What do you got? Who you picking?
I've kind of been swaying back and forth, thinking that it is going to be a 7-game series. At first, I thought maybe it was going to be Boston in 7 because they have the home court. Or then I was thinking it was going to be Dallas in 7. But I don't know if Boston has the closers that the Dallas Mavericks has. I don't trust Jason Tatum in the fourth quarter. I trust Jaylen Brown. I think that Jaylen Brown can go off for 40, and I think that Derek White could have a great night shooting, but I don't trust Jason Tatum. What I do trust is that Luka and Kyrie.
Hold up. You trust Brown over Tatum? Is it because
I do.
of it? And I'm going to agree with you just real quickly, Richard. And he may not make the best plays. He may turn the ball over. But I give credit to guys that actually want the ball when the game's on the line. And I see Brown wanting that more than Tatum. Now, maybe Tatum, if he'd wanted that more, would produce more successful plays later in games. But I'm with you. I know most people are like, are you kidding me? You're taking Brown over Tatum? It's not saying who's the better player. It's talking about when the game's on the line. I'm going Brown too, man. I've seen it. He wants the ball.
And let me tell you something, Thrift. The Boston Celtics has had the easiest path to the NBA Finals over any team I've seen in a long time. Beat the Heat without Jimmy Butler. Beat a Cleveland Cavaliers team without Donovan Mitchell. And beat an Indiana Pacers team without Tyrese Halliburton. They avoided the Sixers. I think if they would have played the Sixers with a healthy Joel Embiid and a Tyrese Maxey, maybe the Sixers could have given them a game. I mean, if they would have played the Knicks, if the Knicks had a healthy Jalen Brunson and possibly Julius Randle, that could have been a game. But Boston had so many breaks to get to the NBA Finals. I think that Dallas is the better team. We saw how good Dallas is after the PJ Washington trade. I think that Dallas matches very well with Boston. And I know that Boston has the home court. You could throw that out. I think that Dallas is the better team. But I know that everybody thinks that Boston's a favorite because they won 64 games. But I'm just not factoring that in. I started leaning with Boston. I'm starting to lean towards Dallas now. But you're right. I think Dallas ends up winning.
Richard, a couple things that I just want to mention. I agree with you. I think this has been the easiest path in the last 15 years. Let's just go back to 2010, okay, when the Heatles came about. And that 2011, the Heat team that made the finals, they had to beat a really good Bulls team. They had to beat a fully healthy Boston team that was still KG, Paul Pierce, Rondo.
Still the big three.
Still the big three. Rondo, Ray Allen, big four. And then they beat Philadelphia. I mean, they were terrible, but they still had to beat Boston in the Chicago team. The next year, they beat a really frisky Pacers team and beat the Boston team again. The year after that, another Pacers team in back-to-back conference finals. I'd put them up against the teams they had to face this year. And I'm not talking if fully healthy, Richard. I'm taking Joel Embiid in the 76ers or Jimmy Butler in the Heat, or a healthy New York Knicks team over those Pacers teams. But they didn't play healthy rosters this year. So I'm going off who they played. 2014, 2015, you got the Cavs. Against the Atlanta Hawks, won 60 games. I know Kyle Korver got hurt, but I don't know.
So did Carroll. DeMarre Carroll got hurt that first game too.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, but it's still they had to beat the Bulls team that had D Rose and Jimmy Butler. The point being, if you go by each and every season, Richard, there has never been a year in which every top player, Giannis, so many greats out. This is the easiest path I've seen going back probably to the early 2000s. Remember when those net teams and I'm not even going to say the Pistons had to beat a decent Pacers team in 2004. And in 2001, the 76ers, the East was weak. And the Raptors, they were decent with Vince Carter. You had Charlotte was decent. But still, that East was terrible. And they didn't have injuries. That's how far you have to go back. I think because they have not faced a level of talent in Luka Doncic, it could be eye-opening. I think the winner of Game 1 decides who wins this series. And right now, the hottest team in the basketball is the Dallas Mavericks. That's why I'm going with them. Richard, Did you know that Caitlin Clark should not be given credit for what is happening in the notoriety of the WNBA? She is nothing, as Chennedy Carter said, but a three-point shooter. This is the epitome of jealousy, but I see it from both sides of the coin, Rich. I do see why some of the players are in their mind, I'm just as good as Caitlin, at just as many astros. Look at Breanna Stewart. I mean, godly, the girl won 4-time National Player of the Year, 4 national championships, had a 90-game winning streak. I mean, she had the greatest career, I think, in women's college basketball history, and she doesn't get the credit. But I've never heard her hating. But I could see why she would be like, hold up, y'all would have tuned in now, but you didn't tune in when I was there. I can't tell you why people tune in to Caitlin Clark, other than the fact that the shooting deep threes, it's the Steph Curry era. It's the Steph Curry effect. And that's what we've come accustomed to seeing. I do understand why they would be upset. But then to never criticize of someone like Angel Reese, I have more of a problem with her than I do with Caitlin Clark. And Caitlin Clark does whine about fouls, but obviously everyone's targeting her because everyone wants to make a name for themselves. Chennedy Carter was drafted in 2020 by the Atlanta Hawks at number 4 overall pick. She didn't even last the season because she was literally traded or released because of conduct detriment to the team, talking about she was going to fight her teammates. Then she goes to another team, gets kicked off because of fighting within teammates. Had to play overseas, and now she's back with Chicago, and she is saying Caitlin Clark's a nobody. Someone that has handled herself the way she has the last 4 years is criticizing Caitlin Clark. That's majority of what's happened in WNBA. That's what the players think. And it's not like Caitlin's come out. She gives credit to everyone. But this is what happens, man. I see it all the time. All right? You go play pickup basketball, dude. There'll be high school kids nowadays. They're putting up 25, 27 points a game. But there's an old school guy that just wants to prove it. That, hey, he's a nobody. Y'all forgot about who I was? It's not beneficial, and it's harming the league. I'm not saying don't be competitive and not play her hard. That's not what I'm saying. It's the cheap shots and to deliberately try to blackball her out of the league in terms of the way teams just – I mean, I saw a freaking highlight, dude. The girl had 2 free throws. She hits one, and she goes straight to guarding Caitlin Clark, forgetting that she's got another free throw. That's the effect Caitlin Clark has on the game. No one's doing that for Angel Reese. Please. And I'm glad that we're having conversations. I'm glad that we're talking about it. I'm glad that we're covering it. But this is getting out of hand, man. It really is. And something's got to give. Like, I know people hated on LeBron when he came up. It was just hard to dominate him. He's 6'8", 240, and you can do that with Caitlin Clark. I don't know, Richard. It didn't sit well with me what Angel Reese said. Instead of saying it about she made it about her. Why is no one targeting Angel Reese? She's literally saying she deserves credit for people tuning in. Caitlin Clark's never said that. I have a problem. So it's an ongoing battle that we have within basketball. I don't know what we're going to do.
I think people tend to forget that Caitlin Clark played at Iowa and that she did not play at UConn. Caitlin Clark, who has played with a chip on her shoulder at Iowa, we remember the national championship. I mean, played a better LSU team, and Angel Reese talking trash with her. And we remember that image of Angel Reese flashing the pinky to her, showing the ring finger. And then we've built up this rivalry. I have been hyped up for this game. On Saturday, when it was Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, I mean, we thought that was going to be the big story But Trinity Carter, by the way, just an uncalled for move by Carter. And then just being snotty after the press conference, saying, I'm not here. I don't want to talk about any Caitlin Clark questions. I mean, they're just
why'd
trying
you do
to
it?
just this shrewd attitude and this jealousy toward Caitlin Clark. She's the reason why you're getting charter flights. She's the reason why everybody's trying to go to the games and your tickets are getting sold out. She is the face of the WNBA. She has changed the game. And this is a once-in-a-generational talent like a Michael Jordan, like a Tiger Woods. I'm watching the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark. Now, she's not putting up the greatest numbers because she's played 11 games in 20 days. And she's getting doubled. She's the second most fouled player in the WNBA. I mean, she needs some rest. And also, by the way, she needs to get an enforcer on her team. When Trinity Carter went and elbowed her, where were her teammates to actually step up and try to fight Carter? I mean, she needs an enforcer. Michael Jordan had an enforcer, and it was called Charles Oakley in the 80s when the Pistons were mauling him.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all, Richard, the fact that the teammates didn't come to have her back. That's sad. And it makes me think that she have toxic within and makes her isolated. I want to make mention of this too, Richard. WNBA players have been crying, and not, I wouldn't say, no, let me rephrase that. Not crying, bad word. They have been vocal about the fact that more people need to cover their sport. Now you're getting that coverage. Caitlin Clark did not ask for the credit nor the coverage. She didn't ask for any of that. It just followed her because of her play. So taking it out on Caitlin Clark, your frustration of how the media has treated you, how that your salaries are way behind everyone else's, especially when it comes to men, why the NBA ownership groups have not invested in the WNBA. That's a topic for another day. That has nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. So you going after Caitlin Clark is going to literally turn off the viewership and audience that you've been craving to tune in. So how is that helping? I don't understand it. If you want to get in front of a microphone saying it's more than just Caitlin Clark, we got a lot of ballers in here, Caitlin be the first to agree with you. There's a difference between talking about the league and promoting the league instead of one player and straight up hating. And right now I'm seeing a lot of hating. Why do you want to turn away money that's coming in to increase your salaries? Because what's going to happen is you're going to turn away this viewership and you're not going to come back from it. I'm hoping they understand the bigger picture. And if you have frustrations, take it out on the people that you're frustrated with, not Caitlin Clark. Okay? Because I don't think she asked for any of this. And I am in agreement. There is incredible players in the WNBA right now. And I think there's going to be even better next year. Juju Watkins, Paige Buchers. There's going to be elite level, I think, better than the men's game. I'm excited about when it comes to women's college basketball. Why do we got to make this about, instead of highlighting all the great plays, we're talking about cheap shots to Caitlin Clark? How is that helping promote the league? I don't think it is, Rich.
I kind of feel bad for Greg Doyle. He's not able to cover this. He got banned from writing about the Indiana Fever.
All right. Okay. But the question he asked, and what Richard's talking about, is a beat writer for Indianapolis newspaper and longtime beat writer. He asked a question that was basically saying that if you look at me, or something along the lines, Richard, you know exactly.
If you keep doing this, we'll get along just fine. We'll get along just fine.
Yeah. So
he was aloof,
great,
socially awkward. Yeah. Might have had maybe a schoolgirl crush. He was just very unprofessional, and now he's probably kicking himself that he's not covering probably the biggest story in sports right now.
Listen, I know a lot of people have a lot of comments about Caitlin Clark. No one's saying, I'm not saying, and never have, saying she's the best player in the world. I am not saying she's going to be the greatest player to ever play in the WNBA. That's never came out of my mouth. I'm just saying that people tune in and like watching her game. Why does everybody have to make it something it's not? It should not be about her being the greatest of all time when she's played 11 games in her career. Like, come on. We're better than this, people. We're better than this. I'm glad we got to the point where we're having hot takes and heated debates on a conversation surrounding women's basketball and WNBA. I think that's awesome. But then it can get to the point where it's so toxic, it turns away a viewing audience that they've been craving for 20 years now. Let's keep the momentum going. Let's be better. And everyone out there that's criticizing Caitlin Clark's game, I hope you keep receipts. Okay?
Yeah.
Because I would never make an opinionated statement that I deem a fact with someone's career only 11 games into it. Are you kidding me? You don't know what she's going to turn into. That's like saying Wembanyama is going to be the greatest player of all time. How do you know? He's played 1 year.
Yeah.
Please. Richard, anything else you want to add before we get out of here, man?
Thrift, you remember when we were playing basketball in our younger days, and when we took a shot, I know when I took a shot on the court, I just shouted out a player because I felt like it. I went, Jordan. And, probably we did that for other players. But you're seeing like
Kobe. I said
Kobe. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I didn't say Jordan. I said Kobe.
I mean, I got to admit, like when girls playing basketball, Caitlin Clark is really a role model. I mean, but she can shoot from the parking lot. She is the female Steph Curry. And these girls, when they're shooting the ball, they're saying Caitlin Clark. I mean, she is the reason why that girls are continuing to get interested in basketball. She has moved the needle. She has brought the casual sports fan to the TV screen, and the viewership is shattering records. Ticket sales are shattering records. It's all because of Caitlin Clark.
I agree, and I think this has been awesome to see the fact that people are talking about it. But let's get better at the toxic. But we can't. When it comes to talking sports, it has to get out of pocket. It's got to be about the greatest of all time. You can't talk about Kobe without saying LeBron sucks. You can't talk about Michael without saying LeBron's terrible. You can't talk about Luka Doncic without saying Giannis didn't live up. You can't talk about Nikola Jokic. It's never positive. It's always negative. And it gets tiresome. But I just wish people would be better, guys. That's all I'll ask.
We do need villains in sports, and Angel Reese is a villain. She's willing to embrace that role.
Good for her. Let her do it. And let her keep saying, give her all the credit. My God. All right. We got games coming up that are playing right now as we speak. About to come up here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We got the Lions on Friday. 5 p.m. is pregame, 7 p.m. is kickoff. Myself and Rick Beach will be in the studio. Richard will be doing some more shows next week. We'll also start sitting down with the state of the program, sitting down with athletic directors, hitting coaches. Looking forward to what is about to be a busy June. We got the Columbus State team camp. Just a lot happening. And make sure to tune into the Sports Riches radio show Thursday, 4 to 6 p.m. on 92.1 Smooth R&B. Richard and Brett Teach, thank you so much for our guests. Enjoy the NBA Finals. Let's cross our fingers the Bravos can get it right.
Yep.
And enjoy the rest of your summer night. Good night, everybody, and we'll see you later. Georgia Alabama Sports Live, tuning out. Thank you for watching the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. You're ready to smile.